Our next speaker is Mark Gazit, CEO and president and board member at ThetaRay. Mark will talk about from attack to defense, using AI to combat AI-driven financial cybercrime. Two sentences about Mark. Mark Gazit is a prominent high-tech executive with 25 years of leadership experience in Israeli and global companies. Mark served as a managing director of NiceTrack, transforming it into a fast-growing, profitable revenue generator. He was also the group president and CEO at Skyvision, which he took from the startup stage to an international company serving over 50 countries. Mark.
Thank you very much. First, I think we need to make it full screen, right? Somebody knows how to do it. Let's see. Okay. You'll see some menus around. So first of all, great to meet you and great to be here. And Guy, good job. 10 years ago, 9 years ago, it all started. ThetaRay started in Tel Aviv University. Professor Averbuch developed it. And that time, nobody believed that AI will really work. Like, artificial intelligence will replace people? No way in hell. And look where we are right now. So I will start a few words about ThetaRay. And it's good that you see companies that are already successful in implementing artificial intelligence. We serve the largest customers in the world, whether it's Santander, or BNP Paribas, or Crédit Agricole. We are very privileged to be the first and unfortunately the only Israeli company that protects banks in the Gulf, following Abraham Accords. So Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank is our customer, Mashreq Bank. We have customers in Bahrain as well, very proud, and we're growing like crazy, 260% last year. And the problem we're solving, most of you are probably familiar with, but I'm not sure that you are aware of the source of the problem. May I ask you how many of you tried to transfer money internationally during the last year? Wow, a lot of rich people. How was the experience? Was it easy and fluent? No, exactly. It was totally difficult. Now it's amazing. Some people told me it takes 3 days to transfer money, and it costs like $40, $50, $25. It's crazy. It's digital. It's bits. It should take 5 seconds, and it should cost 5 cents. But the reason it's so expensive is because of cybersecurity. And most of the people do not aware of the fact that when we move money, we still use a system that was developed 50 years ago that is called SWIFT. The system was established in 1973. And the system was based or built to solve a problem of trust. Now, what you see here is not network diagram of what they call TCP/IP traffic, not at all. This is actually how the money flows through banks. So let's imagine that you are in the United States and you want to transfer money to Mr. Ahmed in Dubai. How your bank in the United States, Wells Fargo, know that Mr. Ahmed is Mr. Ahmed and not Mr. Bin Laden? They don't, but they have to trust somebody. And the recipient bank, Mashreq Bank, how do they know that you are sending money from the United States and your name is Ezra, that you're really Ezra and not some money trafficker? Now, we do not think about it, but actually the SWIFT idea was something called KYC, know your customer. So the American bank will be responsible for authenticating the American guy. The bank in Dubai will be responsible for authenticating the guy in Dubai. And because we're all part of this SWIFT network, one big happy family, we can trust each other. That was in 1973, when in order to open your account, you had to come to a bank, show your ID, sign real papers. Totally irrelevant now, especially post-COVID-19. Everything is digital. You can onboard digitally. Nobody comes to a branch of a bank. Most of the banks don't have branches anymore. So today, if you would like to transfer money illegally, money laundering, all you have to do is to hack into some bank in some remote country using cybersecurity, open 10,000 accounts easily, mark them all as real accounts, and transfer $10,000 for each account, from each account, which is under the radar. But this is $100 million of money laundering. Now, money laundering, we know it's a very big issue. It's a lot of fines. And there is no real solution. That's why banks are so cautious, so careful. If you live in Nigeria, it will be very difficult for you to open an account in a bank. If you want to transfer money, as I said, it will take you 3 days. And by the way, this idea actually doesn't punish the bad guys. You know, Russia was supposed to be disconnected from SWIFT, right? Everybody said it's a nuclear option. Look what happened. Russia was disconnected from SWIFT. Ruble is back. Putin is buying drones from Iran, selling oil to different countries. Money is moving. Why? Because when Putin transfer money, it doesn't fill this, you know, SWIFT form saying first name Vladimir, last name Putin, address Red Square, Moscow, right? He doesn't need to do it. He has thousands of shell companies that will do it for him. So the people are really punished are poor Russians that would like to finance their kids that study in London. So there is no way to solve this problem when you try to identify a person. So what we did in ThetaRay, using this technology, deep technology that was developed in Tel Aviv University and Yale, we said, look, but we can do something different. We can take an approach of airline companies. For those of you who are old enough, you probably remember 20 years ago when you wanted to fly from New York to Washington, D.C., all you had to do is to show your ID, your driving license. Before 9/11, it was like boarding a bus. And then 9/11 happened, and there was a realization that maybe your ID is a good idea, but you have a knife in your pocket, or somebody giving you a bomb in your suitcase. So now when you go through the airport, they will scan you, your checked luggage, your hand luggage. And we said, let's build those huge X-ray machines that will monitor transactions. Unfortunately, nobody did it, and everybody thought it's impossible because one entity can have millions of transactions, and you have like tens of millions of entities or hundreds of millions of customers, you come into trillions of transactions. So only artificial intelligence can monitor each and every transaction, and that's what we do, and that's what we did. And just to show you the outcome and how artificial intelligence can be successful, our customers report that we actually help them to accelerate revenues. Suddenly they can serve countries that they couldn't serve before. I mentioned Nigeria. Yes, we serve the largest banks in the world, but we also serve the government of Nigeria, and by the way, the government of Ukraine, because they're now receiving a lot of money as an aid from the world. Guess which country Russians attack the most from and try to steal money from? Ukraine. And if they will create some sort of situation where money that comes from the United States will be used for money laundering, it can be a death sentence from Ukrainians. So they choose our solution as well. We are very pleased to say that organizations that historically couldn't serve customers from Nigeria, Ghana, etc., now do it very successfully. But it's also reduced significantly the level of false alarms. So, for example, when you transfer money and somebody calls you from a bank and says, look, we need additional information, this is false alarm because you are good people. They don't really need to call you, but the system flagged your because the system is so cautious. Just to move forward, some people ask us what's the secret sauce. So we have 19 patents. I can give you the secret sauce for you. And in a way, Nadav started and gave you a little bit of how artificial intelligence is working. So first, it was a rule-based approach, which is not an artificial intelligence, although some people call it. Let's make a big set of rules. And we actually took this puzzle showing somebody from Harry Potter. And then you need to say what you're looking for. And basically, you don't see the entire picture. You can only look at features that we know that we should look in for. Then they came with the idea of unsupervised machine learning and said, this is a real artificial intelligence. Reinforced learning, and you've seen in the presentation that Nadav said it's good for sort of collision detection because you can show how cars or pedestrian looks like. Not very effective for financial transactions because you still don't see the entire picture. You need to say what is weird. For example, you might say that what is weird is that you see two kids in the car because that's what you see, but you still don't see the entire picture because there are some things that you ignore. Only when you use an idea of machines teaching themselves, only when you have huge amount of information, then you can understand the entire picture and say, okay, so what's weird here is not just two kids sitting in a car, probably they shouldn't drive the car, but actually the car is flying and it's flying faster than a train. And then you get it. Then there is this aha model. And the best way to think about the technology we're using is that LLM learns English, large language model. Our system learns the language of financial transactions, which, by the way, is much more difficult because in English it's still you have grammar, but when you look at financial transactions, it's much more difficult. Now, we're not a generative AI, so we do not create attacks. Somebody told us that maybe some bad guys will steal our technology and try to create attacks, but think about ChatGPT, but working the other way around. So, ChatGPT can write a love letter for you, right? And by the way, unlike this poor guy from Google, ChatGPT doesn't fall in love with you. It just knows how to create amazing love letters. Now think about the other way around. So what our technology is doing is basically if ChatGPT will allow you to feed a love letter and tell you, look, you think that he or she loves you? No, they just want your money. So our system identifies the abnormal types of transactions and identified. And of course, it's not enough to create unsupervised machine learning. You really need to train it. You need some human intervention because otherwise there's a bias issue and hallucination issue. And in our world, if the system suddenly brings bias, certain ethnic groups can be disconnected from financial system. If there is a hallucination, then good guys will not be able to transfer their money. Now, I'm happy to say that our system is the only AI that is currently accepted by regulators. It's transparent, it's traceable, it's explainable, and it's fair. And we believe that this is the only way artificial intelligence will be used for mission-critical applications. So just to finalize and tell you what I think about this, war of words. Shall we do AI or not? Now I just want to give you one quick example, a real example. We mentioned Ukraine. A large European bank used our system, and the system analyzed transactions. Unlike X-ray machines in the airport that can only scan one suitcase at a time, we can scan all the transactions that are happening in the same day or same month, etc. And it said, look, said to the bank, look, there are hundreds of accounts that looks like a part of human trafficking scheme. And the bank was very responsible, by the way, so immediately frozen the money and did what they called SAR, Suspicious Activity Report, which basically reported the transactions to the regulator. After 2 or 3 weeks, they got a phone call from Interpol saying, look, you really should stop the money transfer because it's human trafficking. It's underage girls from Ukraine that are being sold, slavery. And please don't transfer the money. And the bank told them, look, we actually stopped those transactions 3 weeks ago because of the AI system that identified it. And then Interpol told them, look, we checked it because money didn't reach the target. None of the girls were shipped. So sometimes, we think about big words, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, etc. At the end of the day, it's one little girl, in this case, a few hundreds of little girls that were saved just because of use of AI. And that brings me to a conclusion. You can read what our customers saying about us, but I can give you my view about, this, should we or shouldn't we use AI, shouldn't we develop AI, etc. In our world, or world of financial cybercrime, bad guys has been using artificial intelligence for quite a while. They don't have rules, they don't respect intellectual properties, and they're just doing it and using it to hurt good people. And it's true that every innovation is dangerous. I had the privilege to be one of the founders of the Israeli internet service provider called NetVision. And people told us, look, internet is dangerous. And by the way, when phone was created, people said it's dangerous because no social interactions anymore. When books were created, print, people said that's it, it's the end of human memory. When we built internet, NetVision, everybody said, look, you will not be able to understand the language your kids will be using, which, by the way, is true. I think the same is with artificial intelligence, but even a little bit more different. Because, as I said, bad guys have been using AI, and they will keep using AI. That's the only way for us to protect ourselves is to develop artificial intelligence, to make it our digital guard. When I asked ChatGPT a question, you can ask it, what is the best way to detect AI-based cyber attacks? And the AI told me to use a better AI. So, it's a great pleasure to run a company that is growing extremely fast, but also making this crazy world of data much, much safer world. So thank you very much.
Maybe one quick question, Mark, before you go. So you mentioned using AI for anti-money laundering. Do you think it will always be complementary to rules-based? You mentioned the situation in Russia. Suddenly, people even got into some blacklists and stuff like that. AI will not be able to identify those things that are happening. So it will always be a combination of rule-based and AI?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question. Many people ask us, can machines totally replace everything? And I believe that the only solution is a combination. By the way, there's a scientific word for it, we're in Tel Aviv University. It's called augmented and supervised machine learning. You don't need to remember it. But the idea is that, like with human beings, think about it. AI now works more and more as human beings, as kids. By the way, Facebook yesterday released another version of AI, and it says they actually trained the brain to work like a brain of a kid. But think about it, when you send your kid to a street with no rules, no tuition, the kid will definitely learn stuff. But can we be sure that the kid will learn good stuff? No. That's why we developed schools, teachers, rules. Go set your room. Like, we want your room to be clean. So it's a very good question. I absolutely believe that in this world where machines will teach themselves, we need to make sure that we have a good teachers that teach those machines and really strong boundaries so the machines will learn the right things and not the wrong things.
Thank you very much, Mark.